Jake Morrison stood at the window of his small ship and looked down at the planet below. Valthus was beautiful. The surface sparkled like a giant jewel under the light of 3 suns. Crystal towers rose from green forests and silver rivers, wound through purple mountains. It looked like something from a dream. But Jake was not here for sightseeing. He was here to save humanity. The Void Collective was coming. The machine army had already destroyed 12 star systems. They turned planets into dead rocks and killed everything that lived. Earth's military could not stop them alone. Humanity needed friends, and the Valthans were strong fighters with powerful weapons. Jake's hands shook a little as he checked his uniform one more time. He was only 32 years old, but Earth's leaders had chosen him for this mission. They said he was good at talking to aliens and making deals. Jake hoped they were right. His ship landed on a platform made of smooth blue stone. The platform was huge, big enough for 20 ships like his. Guards waited for him. They were tall and covered in scales that changed color in the sunlight. Their eyes glowed yellow, like small suns. These were Valthans. Captain Morrison said, the tallest guard. His voice was deep and rough. King Zethkar waits for you. Jake followed the guards through corridors that seemed to be carved from giant crystals. Everything glowed with soft light. The walls showed pictures that moved like videos telling stories of Valthan history. Jake saw great battles, beautiful cities, and strange creatures he had never imagined. The throne room was enormous. The ceiling was so high that Jake could barely see it. Hundreds of Valthans stood in rows on both sides of a long carpet. They all watched Jake as he walked toward the throne. King Zethkar sat on a chair made from what looked like frozen fire. He was bigger than the other Valthans, with scales that shifted from gold to red to blue. His eyes were bright green and seemed to look right through Jake. Human, the king said. His voice filled the whole room. You come asking for help? Jake stopped and bowed. Yes, Your Majesty. The Void Collective threatens us both. Earth offers friendship and alliance. Friendship. The king seemed to taste the word. What does Earth offer in return for our warriors and ships? Jake had prepared for this question. Our technology, our knowledge, our resources. Earth has new weapons and shields that might help. Against the machines. The king was quiet for a long moment. The room was so silent that Jake could hear his own heartbeat. Finally, King Zethkar stood up. There is another way to seal this alliance, the king said. A way that would bind our peoples together forever. Jake felt his stomach twist. He had heard stories about alien marriage customs. Some were very strange and dangerous. I offer you my daughter, the king continued. Princess Lyra. Marry her, and our alliance will be complete. The room erupted in whispers. Jake saw the other Valthans looking at each other with wide eyes. Some looked shocked. Others looked worried. A few seemed scared. Your Majesty said, a Valthan with silver scales near the throne. Jake thought he might be a general or advisor. Are you certain about this decision? I am certain, General Corvin, the king replied. His voice had an edge to it that made the general step back. Jake's mind raced. He had not expected this. Marriage was a big decision, and he had never even seen the princess. But if this would save humanity, I accept, Jake said. I would be honored to marry Princess Lyra. The whispers grew louder. Jake heard words he did not understand, but the tone was clear. The Valthans were upset about something. General Corvin moved closer to Jake. Human, he said quietly. You do not know what you agree to. The princess, she is not like others. What do you mean? Jake asked. She is cursed, another Valthan whispered. Beastly, dangerous. Enough. The king's voice thundered through the room. The alliance is sealed. Prepare for the wedding ceremony. As the Valthans began to leave, Jake felt a hand on his shoulder. General Corvin looked at him with something that might have been pity. You should have asked more questions, human, the general said. The princess changes. When the moons align, she becomes something else. Something terrible. What kind of changes? Jake asked, but the general was already walking away. That evening, Jake was taken to the palace gardens to meet his bride. The gardens were unlike anything on earth. Trees with silver leaves grew next to flowers that sang when the wind touched them. Small lights floated in the air like stars. Princess Lyra was waiting by a fountain that flowed upward instead of down. When she turned to face him, Jake forgot how to breathe. She was beautiful. Her scales were gold like her father's, but softer, more delicate. Her eyes were amber-colored and kind. She wore long robes that covered most of her body, but Jake could see that she moved with grace. "Captain Morrison," she said. Her voice was musical, like wind chimes. "I am sorry." "Sorry for what?" Jake asked. "For what my father has done to you," she said. "You should not have agreed to this marriage. You do not know what I am." Jake moved closer. "Then tell me." Princess Lyra looked away. "I cannot. You would run away, and then both our peoples would suffer." "I'm not going anywhere," Jake said. "We're in this together now." The princess looked at him with surprise. "You are not afraid?" "Should I be?" She was quiet for a long time. Above them, Jake could see two of the planet's 3 moons starting to rise. They were bigger than Earth's moon and glowed with different colors. "Tomorrow night is the alignment," Princess Lyra said finally. "The 3 moons will be full together. You will see then what I really am." "And what if I'm not afraid?" Jake asked. Princess Lyra smiled, but it was a sad smile. "No one has ever not been afraid, Captain Morrison. Not even my own people." As Jake walked back to his rooms that night, he thought about what the general and the princess had said. Something about changes and curses and beasts. He had agreed to marry an alien princess to save humanity. But now he wondered what else. He had agreed to. The next day would bring answers. Jake only hoped he would be ready for them. The wedding ceremony was beautiful and strange. Jake wore special robes made from cloth that sparkled like starlight. Princess Lyra looked like a goddess in her golden dress, but Jake noticed she kept her hands covered with long gloves. Hundreds of Veltans watched as the king performed the ceremony in the ancient language. Jake did not understand the words, but he could feel their power. When it was over, Princess Lyra was his wife, and he was now part of the royal family. The celebration lasted all day. There was music that made Jake's heart feel light, and food that tasted like nothing on earth. The Velthans seemed happy about the alliance, but Jake noticed they kept their distance from Princess Lyra. Even during her own wedding, she sat alone except for Jake. As the sun set, the 3 moons began to rise. Jake could see them through the great windows of the celebration hall. The first moon was silver, the second was blue, and the third was red. They were growing brighter as they climbed higher in the sky. "It is time," Princess Lyra said quietly to Jake. "We should go to our chambers." The royal chambers were magnificent. The walls were made of crystal that glowed softly, and the bed was covered in silk that felt like water. But Princess Lyra did not seem to notice the beauty around them. She stood by the window watching the moons. "You should leave," she said without turning around. "Sleep in the guest rooms tonight." "This is our wedding night," Jake said gently. "I'm not going anywhere. Please." Her voice was shaking. "You do not understand what will happen." Jake walked over to stand beside her. The 3 moons were almost perfectly aligned now, and their combined light was growing stronger. "Then help me understand," he said. Princess Lyra looked at him with tears in her amber eyes. "Every month, when the 3 moons align like this, I change. I become something horrible. Something that frightens everyone who sees me." "What kind of change?" Jake asked. "I become a beast," she whispered. "Large and strong and terrible. My own people are afraid of me. Even my father can barely look at me when it happens." The moonlight was getting brighter. Jake could see it starting to affect Princess Lyra. Her breathing was becoming faster, and her hands were shaking. "How long have you been dealing with this alone?" Jake asked. Since I was 12 years old, she said. It started when I became an adult. The doctors say it is a curse in my bloodline, something that appears sometimes in the royal family. Jake felt angry, but not at her. He was angry at everyone who had made her feel ashamed of something she could not control. Show me, he said. No. Princess Lyra backed away from him. You will be frightened. You will hate me. I won't, Jake said firmly. We're married now. That means we face everything together. The moonlight grew stronger, and Princess Lyra gasped. It's starting, she said. Please, Jake, go to the other room. But Jake stayed where he was. He watched as his new wife began to change. It started slowly. Her golden scales became darker and larger. Her delicate features became stronger and more pronounced. She grew taller, her muscles becoming more powerful. Her fingernails became long and sharp, like claws. Princess Lyra tried to hide behind her hands, but the change continued. Within 10 minutes, she had become something very different. She was now 8 feet tall with thick, dark scales. Her eyes glowed brighter, and her teeth were sharp. She looked like she could tear apart a metal door with her bare hands. Now you, see? She said, and her voice was deeper and rougher than before. I am a monster. Jake stared at her, but not with fear. He was amazed. You're incredible, he said. Princess Lyra blinked in surprise. What? This is amazing, Jake said, walking closer to her. Your body can completely change its structure. Do you know how impossible that should be? You are not afraid? She asked, confused. Afraid? No way, I'm fascinated. Jake began walking around her, studying her transformation like a scientist. How does your bone structure change so quickly? What happens to your organs? This is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Princess Lyra had never had anyone react this way before. Everyone else had always run away or looked at her with disgust. But Jake was looking at her like she was wonderful. On Earth, Jake continued, we have stories about people who can change like this. We call them shapeshifters or werewolves. But those are just stories, you're real. But I am ugly now, Princess Lyra said, still not believing his reaction. You're not ugly, Jake said firmly. You're different, but you're still beautiful, just in a different way. He reached out slowly and touched her hand. Her new claws were sharp, but she was very careful not to hurt him. How do you feel when you change? Jake asked. Stronger, she admitted. I can hear sounds from far away. I can smell things I never notice normally. My muscles feel powerful. That sounds like enhanced senses and physical abilities, Jake said. Do you know if this serves any purpose? Like, does it help you in dangerous situations? Princess Lyra thought about this. When I was younger, there was an accident in the palace. A fire started in the kitchens and spread quickly. I was changed that night, and I was able to carry 10 people to safety. People who would have been too heavy for me normally. So the change makes you stronger and gives you better senses, Jake said. That doesn't sound like a curse, that sounds like a gift. A gift? Princess Lyra had never thought of it that way. Where I come from, we believe that evolution gives living things advantages to help them survive, Jake explained. Maybe your transformation is your body's way of making you more capable when you need to be. They talked for hours as the moons moved across the sky. Jake asked questions about her transformation, and Princess Lyra answered them. For the first time in her life, someone was interested in her change instead of frightened by it. As dawn approached, Princess Lyra began to change back. Her body became smaller and more delicate again. Her scales returned to their golden color, and her claws became normal fingernails. When the transformation was complete, she looked at Jake with wonder. You really are not afraid of me, she said. Not even a little bit, Jake replied. In fact, I think you might be exactly what both our peoples need. What do you mean? Jake thought about the Void Collective and their terrible machines. I don't know yet, he said. But I have a feeling that what you call a curse might be the key to saving everyone. Princess Lyra smiled, and this time it was not a sad smile. For the first time in years, she felt hope. Maybe being different was not something to hide. Maybe it was something to be proud of. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For seeing me," she replied. "Really seeing me instead of just being afraid." Jake took her hand in his. "We're partners now," he said, "and partners help each other figure things out." Outside their window, the 3 moons were setting, and the morning sun was rising. It was the beginning of a new day, and for both Jake and Princess Lyra, it felt like the beginning of something much bigger than either of them had imagined. Over the next few weeks, Jake spent every day learning about Princess Lyra's transformations. He brought his scientific equipment from his ship and set up a small laboratory in their chambers. Princess Lyra was nervous at first, but Jake's excitement made her curious too. "On Earth, we study how living things change and adapt," Jake explained as he looked at samples of her scales under a microscope. "We call it evolution. Living things develop new abilities to help them survive." "But my people say this is a curse," Princess Lyra said, watching him work. "Maybe your people are wrong," Jake replied. He showed her the microscope image of her scales. "Look at this. Your normal scales are beautiful, but they're soft. But when you transform, they become much thicker and stronger. It's like natural armor." Princess Lyra looked through the microscope and gasped. She had never seen her own scales this way before. "They look so different." "Everything about your transformation makes you more capable," Jake continued. "Stronger muscles, better senses, tougher skin. In my world, we would call this a survival adaptation." Each night, Jake tested different things during her transformation. He found that her hearing was 10 times better than normal. She could see in almost complete darkness. Her strength increased by 5 times, and her reflexes became incredibly fast. "Try this," Jake said one night, holding up a piece of metal. "See if you can bend it." In her transformed state, Princess Lyra easily bent the metal bar into a circle. "Is this normal for humans?" she asked. "Not at all," Jake laughed. "The strongest human couldn't do that without machines." But the most amazing discovery came by accident. Jake had been feeling sick from eating some Veltan food that didn't agree with him. When Princess Lyra touched his hand during her transformation, his sickness went away. "What did you do?" Jake asked, feeling much better. "I do not know." "Princess," Lyra said, looking confused. "Sometimes when I touch sick animals in the garden, they get better. I thought it was just coincidence." Jake got very excited. "You might be able to neutralize toxins," he said. "Your body processes harmful things and makes them safe." They tested this theory carefully. Jake brought small amounts of different substances that were poisonous to humans. When Princess Lyra touched them during her transformation, they became harmless. "This is incredible," Jake said, taking notes. "Your transformed body can clean poison from living things. Do you understand how valuable that ability is?" Princess Lyra was starting to understand that her transformation might not be the terrible curse she had always believed it was, but she was still confused about one thing. "If this is so useful, why does it only happen during the moon alignment?" she asked. Jake had been thinking about this too. "Maybe it's not just the moons," he said. "Maybe the moons are just one trigger. What if your body transforms when it senses danger or stress?" To test this idea, Jake created a safe but stressful situation. He had some guards pretend to attack them during the day when the moons were not aligned. As soon as Princess Lyra felt real fear for Jake's safety, she began to transform. "It worked," Jake said excitedly as Princess Lyra changed. "Your body knows when you need extra abilities." This discovery changed everything. Princess Lyra could trigger her transformation when she needed to, not just during the moon cycles. She practiced controlling it, learning to change when she wanted to and stay normal when she didn't need the extra abilities. But their experiments were interrupted by terrible news. General Corvin came to their chambers with a report that made Jake's blood run cold. "The Void Collective has reached the outer systems," the general said grimly. "They destroyed the mining colonies on Xerion Prime. No survivors." Jake felt sick, but not from food this time. "How long before they reach Earth or Valthus?" "Our scientists estimate 6 months, perhaps less," General Corvin replied. They are moving faster than we expected. After the general left, Jake and Princess Lyra sat quietly, thinking about what this meant. Billions of people on both worlds were in danger. Our alliance needs to be stronger, Jake said finally. But our normal weapons aren't working against the Void Collective. They adapt too quickly. What kind of weapons do they use? Princess Lyra asked. Jake pulled up reports on his computer. They use biomechanical viruses, tiny machines that get into living bodies and take control of the brain. They also release toxins that kill organic life while leaving their machines undamaged. Princess Lyra studied the reports carefully. Something about the biomechanical viruses reminded her of the toxins she could neutralize during her transformation. Jake, she said slowly, what if my ability to clean poisons could work on these biomechanical viruses too? Jake looked at her with growing excitement. If you could neutralize their bioweapons, you would be immune to their most dangerous attacks. Not just immune, Princess Lyra said, her mind racing. I could protect others too. If I can clean toxins from living things by touching them, maybe I could clean these viruses the same way. Jake began pulling up more technical information about the Void Collective's weapons. According to these reports, their bioweapons target the nervous system first. But if you could neutralize them before they take effect, I could save people. Princess Lyra finished. I could actually save people. For the first time, Princess Lyra truly understood that her transformation was not a curse. It was exactly what the galaxy needed to fight this terrible enemy. Her people had been wrong to fear her abilities. Those abilities might be the key to survival for everyone. We need to tell my father, she said. And we need to start training with your military people. Jake nodded. But first, we need to understand exactly how your abilities work against these bioweapons. We'll need to run tests. Tests with real Void Collective weapons? Princess Lyra asked. If we can get samples, yes, Jake said seriously. It's dangerous, but if we're right about this, you might be the most powerful weapon against the Void Collective that anyone has ever had. Princess Lyra thought about all the people on both worlds who would die if the Void Collective reached them. Children, families, friends, all the Violthans who had feared her transformation, and all the humans on Earth who didn't even know she existed. Then let's get started, she said firmly. It's time to find out what I can really do. That night, as they prepared for the experiments that would change both their lives, Jake realized something important. He had come to Valtis to save humanity through a political alliance. Instead, he had found something much more powerful. He had found a partner whose unique abilities might save everyone in the galaxy, and Princess Lyra finally understood that being different was not something to hide from. Sometimes being different was exactly what the world needed. The attack came without warning. Jake woke up to sirens blaring throughout the palace. Red lights flashed in the corridors, and he could hear guards shouting orders. Beside him, Princess Lyra was already sitting up, her eyes glowing brighter than usual. What's happening? Jake asked, grabbing his clothes. The Void Collective, Princess Lyra said grimly. I can smell something wrong in the air, something that doesn't belong here. General Corvin burst into their chambers without knocking. His face was pale with fear. They're here. Void Collective scouts have landed in the eastern districts. They've released some kind of biological weapon. Jake felt his heart sink. The Void Collective had arrived months earlier than expected. What kind of biological weapon? We don't know exactly, the general replied. But people are collapsing wherever the scouts have been. Their minds seem to be taken over. Jake and Princess Lyra looked at each other. This was exactly what they had been preparing for, but they had hoped to have more time to test her abilities. Need to get to the infected areas, Princess Lyra said, already beginning her transformation even though the moons were not aligned. Her body was responding to the danger automatically. Absolutely not, General Corvin said firmly. It's too dangerous. We don't know what these bioweapons will do to you. That's exactly why she needs to go, Jake said. Her transformation might be the only thing that can stop this. As Princess Lyra completed her change, becoming 8 feet tall and powerful, General Corvin stepped back nervously. Even though he had known her all her life, he was still uncomfortable seeing her in her transformed state. "Trust us," Jake said to the general. "We've been studying this. Princess Lyra's abilities might be exactly what we need." The three of them rushed through the palace corridors toward the infected areas. As they got closer, Jake began to smell something strange and metallic in the air. It made his head feel fuzzy and his thoughts slow down. "The bioweapon," Princess Lyra said, her enhanced senses picking up much more than Jake could detect. "It's like a virus, but also like tiny machines. I can smell the metal and the organic parts mixed together." When they reached the Eastern District, the scene was horrifying. Hundreds of Velthons were standing perfectly still, their eyes glowing with an unnatural blue light. They moved in perfect coordination, like they were all controlled by the same mind. "The virus has taken control of their nervous systems," Jake said, recognizing the symptoms from the reports he had studied. "The Void Collective is using them as remote-controlled soldiers." 3 Void Collective scouts stood in the center of the district. They looked like metal skeletons covered in black cables and glowing circuits. From their hands, they sprayed more of the biomechanical virus into the air. "More people are getting infected every minute," General Corvin said. "Our weapons can destroy the scouts, but that won't help the people who are already infected." "I can help them," Princess Lyra said confidently, "but I need to get close to them." She charged toward the infected Velthons before anyone could stop her. The controlled people turned toward her, moving to attack, but Princess Lyra was much faster and stronger in her transformed state. She reached the first group of infected people and placed her hands on them. Jake watched anxiously as Princess Lyra concentrated. He could see her body working to process the biomechanical virus, the same way she had neutralized other toxins in their experiments. Suddenly, the blue glow faded from the infected Velthon's eyes. They blinked in confusion and looked around like they were waking up from a dream. "It worked," Jake shouted. "She's cleaning the virus from their systems." Princess Lyra moved quickly from person to person, touching each infected Velthon. Everywhere she went, people returned to normal. The biomechanical virus was no match for her body's natural ability to neutralize harmful substances. But the Void Collective scouts noticed what she was doing. They turned their weapons toward her and began firing energy blasts. Princess Lyra's thick scales protected her from most of the damage, and her speed let her dodge the attack she couldn't absorb. "Cover her!" General Corvin shouted to his guards. They began attacking the scouts with their energy weapons. Jake had an idea. "Princess Lyra," he called out, "can you absorb the bioweapon directly from the scouts?" Princess Lyra looked at the metal enemies who were still spraying virus into the air. "I can try." She leaped toward the nearest scout, moving faster than Jake had ever seen her move. Before the machine could react, she grabbed it with her powerful hands. The scout tried to spray bioweapon directly onto her, but instead of being infected, Princess Lyra absorbed the virus into her own system and neutralized it. The scout's bioweapon supply ran out within seconds. Without its most dangerous weapon, it was just a metal skeleton that the Velthon guards could easily destroy. Princess Lyra moved to the second scout, then the third. Each time, she drained their bioweapons and left them helpless against the conventional weapons of the guards. Within an hour, the attack was over. All the infected people had been cured, and the scouts were destroyed. The Eastern District was safe. "Incredible," General Corvin said, staring at Princess Lyra as she changed back to her normal form. "I have never seen anything like that." "The bioweapon couldn't affect her at all," Jake said excitedly. "Not only is she immune, but she can actually drain the weapons from the enemy and cure people who have already been infected." Word of Princess Lyra's abilities spread quickly through the palace, and then throughout the planet. For the first time, the Velthons had hope that they could fight back against the Void Collective. King Zethkar summoned Jake and Princess Lyra to the throne room. When they arrived, the king looked at his daughter with an expression Jake had never seen before. It was pride. "My daughter," the king said formally, "I owe you an apology. For years, I thought your transformation was a burden on our family. Today you proved that it is our greatest strength. Princess Lyra smiled, but she also looked sad. All those years I spent hiding, ashamed of what I was. All those years when I could have been helping people instead. The important thing is what happens now, Jake said. We know Princess Lyra can fight the Void Collective's bioweapons, but they'll send more scouts and eventually, they'll send their main forces. Then we must prepare, the king declared. Princess Lyra will train with our military. We will develop new strategies that use her unique abilities. Over the following weeks, Princess Lyra worked with both Vailthon and human military officers. They developed new battle plans that put her transformed abilities at the center of their defense strategy. Jake coordinated the tactical planning while Princess Lyra led training exercises. She learned to work with teams of soldiers, protecting them from bioweapons while they handled conventional combat. The other Vailthons who had once feared her transformation now saw her as their greatest defender. Children who had been taught to be afraid of the cursed princess now cheered when they saw her practicing in the training grounds. It's amazing how quickly people's opinions can change, Princess Lyra said one evening as she and Jake watched the sunset from their chambers. They're seeing you the way I always have, Jake replied, as someone extraordinary. But even as they celebrated their success, Jake knew this was only the beginning. The Void Collective would learn from this defeat and return with new weapons and strategies. The real test of Princess Lyra's abilities was still coming. Are you ready for what's next? Jake asked. Princess Lyra looked at him with determination in her amber eyes. I've spent my whole life being afraid of what I am, she said. Now I know what I am, exactly what the galaxy needs to survive. So yes, I'm ready. Jake smiled and took her hand. Together they would face whatever the Void Collective could throw at them. The beast's true power had been revealed, and it was more than anyone had ever imagined. The final battle began 3 months later. Jake stood on the bridge of the combined human Velthan fleet, watching the massive enemy construct approach through space. The thing was enormous, bigger than a city, made of twisted metal and organic, parts that pulsed like a living heart. It was heading straight for the space between Earth and Valtus, planning to drain the life from both planets at the same time. All ships report ready, announced Admiral Chen, the human fleet commander. But our weapons are barely scratching that thing. It's adapting to everything we throw at it, added Commander Vale from the Vailton flagship. Every time we hit it with a new weapon, it changes its armor to resist that type of attack. Jake studied the readings from their sensors. The construct was releasing clouds of biomechanical virus into space, creating a dead zone that killed any organic life that came too close. Conventional ships couldn't get near it. Princess Lyra, Jake said into his communicator. Are you ready? Ready, came her voice from the special assault ship they had built for her. I can see the bioweapon clouds from here. My body is already starting to respond to them. Princess Lyra was in her fully transformed state, wearing armor designed specifically for her enhanced form. She commanded a team of volunteers, both human and Vailton, who were willing to risk everything for this desperate mission. Remember the plan, Jake told her. Get to the core of that thing and plant the electromagnetic pulse charges. Your immunity to bioweapons is the only reason this mission is possible. I know, Princess Lyra replied. Jake, if something goes wrong, nothing will go wrong, Jake said firmly. We've prepared for this. You can do this. Princess Lyra's assault ship launched from the main fleet and headed directly toward the construct. As soon as she entered the bioweapon cloud, her ship's instruments showed massive contamination that would have killed any normal crew within seconds. But Princess Lyra and her team, protected by her ability to neutralize bioweapons, flew safely through the deadly zone. Bioweapon levels are off the charts, reported Lieutenant Ross, Princess Lyra's human engineer. But I feel fine. Whatever you're doing, it's working. My body is processing the toxins and making them harmless, Princess Lyra explained. Stay close to me, and you'll be protected. They landed on the construct's surface, which felt like walking on something that was half machine and half living tissue. The surface pulsed under their feet, and biomechanical viruses tried to seep through their suits, but Princess Lyra's presence neutralized them before they could cause harm. The core should be about 2 miles into the center, Jake's voice crackled through their communicators. "You'll need to find an entrance." Princess Lyra used her enhanced strength to tear open what looked like a maintenance hatch. Inside, the construct was like a nightmare version of a living body. Cables that looked like veins carried glowing fluid, and walls that seemed like skin contracted and expanded like breathing. "This thing is more alive than we thought," Princess Lyra said as her team followed her deeper into the construct. "It's not just using bioweapons, it is a bioweapon." They fought their way through defense systems that fired both energy blasts and biomechanical viruses. Princess Lyra's team handled the energy weapons while she absorbed and neutralized every bioweapon attack. Her body was working overtime, processing massive amounts of toxins, but she felt stronger than ever. "There," Lieutenant Ross pointed ahead. "That must be the core." The core chamber was vast, filled with a giant brain-like structure that pulsed, with electricity and organic fluid. Cables connected it to thousands of smaller brains, all working together to control the construct. "It's like a collective consciousness," Princess Lyra realized. "All these brains are connected, thinking as one." But as they approached the core, Princess Lyra felt something strange. Her enhanced senses were picking up something that didn't make sense. "Jake," she said into her communicator, "this construct, it's trying to do what I do." "What do you mean?" Jake's voice came back. "It's trying to process both organic and mechanical systems in the same body," Princess Lyra explained. "But it's doing it wrong. It's forcing the combination instead of letting it happen naturally." She moved closer to the core and placed her hand on its surface. Immediately, she could feel the construct's confusion and pain. It was trying to be like her, but it didn't understand how. "The Void Collective has been studying beings like me," Princess Lyra realized. "They've been trying to create artificial versions of my abilities, but they can't get it right." "Can you stop it?" Jake asked. Princess Lyra looked at the electromagnetic pulse charges her team was carrying. They would destroy the construct, but they would also destroy all the knowledge it contained about biomechanical integration. Instead, she had a different idea. "I'm going to try something else," she told her team. "Stand back." Princess Lyra placed both hands on the core and opened her mind to it. Instead of fighting the construct, she began to teach it. She showed it how organic and mechanical systems could work together in harmony instead of conflict. The effect was immediate. The construct stopped its aggressive expansion and began to change. The forced combination of organic and mechanical parts became more natural and balanced. The thousands of connected brains stopped fighting each other and began working in true cooperation. "Princess Lyra, what are you doing?" Jake's voice was worried. "Your vital signs are going crazy." "I'm teaching it how to live properly, Princess," Lyra replied. "The Void Collective was trying to create beings like me, but they were doing it through force and pain. I'm showing them a better way." The construct began to transform. Instead of a weapon designed to consume life, it became something new. The biomechanical virus systems changed into healing technology. The life-draining capabilities became life-supporting ones. When Princess Lyra finally stepped back from the core, the construct had become something completely different. It was still massive and powerful, but now it radiated peace instead of destruction. "This is incredible," Admiral Chen's voice came through the communicator. "The construct has stopped all aggressive actions. It's actually broadcasting healing energy toward both planets." The Void Collective spent so long trying to artificially create what Princess Lyra naturally is, Jake said with wonder in his voice. She just taught them how to do it right. The transformation spread throughout the Void Collective's forces. Ships that had been weapons of destruction became tools for healing and growth. The machine intelligence that had consumed star systems began working to restore the worlds it had damaged. When Princess Lyra and her team returned to the fleet, she was exhausted, but triumphant. She had not just defeated the enemy, she had transformed them into allies. "How did you know that would work?" Jake asked as he held her in the medical bay. "I could feel their pain," Princess Lyra said weakly. "They weren't evil. They were just confused and hurting. They were trying to evolve but didn't know how." In the months that followed, The transformed Void Collective worked with humans and Velthans to repair the damage from their previous attacks. The biomechanical healing technology they developed revolutionized medicine for both species. Princess Lyra became the first ambassador to the new Void Collective, teaching them about natural evolution and biological harmony. Her transformation, abilities once seen as a curse, were now celebrated throughout the galaxy as the key to peace. Jake and Princess Lyra had children who inherited traits from both species, enhanced by her unique genetics. These children could thrive in environments that would challenge either parent species alone, representing the next step in galactic evolution. "Do you ever miss the time when it was just us figuring this out together?" Jake asked one evening, as they watched their children playing in the palace gardens. Their son could partially transform like his mother, while their daughter had inherited enhanced healing abilities. "Sometimes," Princess Lyra admitted, "but look what we've built together. 3 species working as one, children who are stronger than any of us alone, and peace throughout this part of the galaxy." "The beast's daughter," Jake said with a smile, "who taught everyone how to be better than they were." Princess Lyra laughed. "I was never a beast," she said. "I was just ahead of my time." As the 3 moons of Valthus rose in the evening sky, Princess Lyra felt her transformation beginning again. But now, instead of hiding from it, she embraced it. Her children cheered as she changed, and Jake watched with the same wonder he had felt on their wedding night. What had once been seen as a curse had become the foundation for a new kind of civilization. The princess, who was called Beastly, had shown 3 species how to evolve together, creating something stronger and more beautiful than any of them could have achieved alone. The transformation was complete, and it was just the beginning.